Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about Episode 8 of Ultimate Spider-Man Back in Black. Sadly, this reference to the wonderful and classic AC/DC song is quite possibly the highlight of this episode. While this is certainly not the worst episode of the season, I don't think it's one of the greatest ones either. And let's not waste time and let's get right into it. And my main complaint about this episode is that a lot of what's going on here depends on some of our main characters being really, really dumb. Okay, now let's start off with Harry Osborn here. Now, it did seem genuinely ominous when he held onto that little piece of the Venom symbiote from a couple of episodes back, and here, of course, we get to see the payoff for this. But just listening to the way Harry described it, how he had trained it just makes Harry seem like such a lunkhead. Okay, I mean, look, let me put it this way. Harry is treating this thing that trashed his father's house and endangered the lives of his friends like it's a puppy he found in the alley behind a 7-Eleven. The fact that he could think that he could, carry it around, control it, and carry it around in his little freaking Ben 10 watch, it really just boggles the mind that somebody could be this dumb. And while it is certainly an interesting twist to have Harry be the one who becomes Venom, when it was in the comics he ended up becoming Hobgoblin. I mean, for God's sakes, at least in the comics, Harry could have the excuse that in becoming Hobgoblin, and at the time he was a drug addict. Yeah, seriously, that is completely true. The issue of Spider-Man where Harry Osborn takes drugs was the first issue since like the 50s, and this happened in the early 70s, that Marvel published without the approval of the Comic Code Authority, simply because Stan Lee felt that showing Harry do this was vital to the story, and back then you most definitely could not show people doing drugs in comics. So, points to Stan there. Our other major entry into how in the name of all that is holy could you be this stupid has to, of course, go to the Amazing Friends. The Amazing Friends, who not only fought Venom just a couple of weeks ago, but a couple of them were possessed by the Venom symbiote. Luke Cage and Danny, they should really all understand just how insanely dangerous Venom is. And when Spider-Man points out at black-suited Spider-Man, he goes, "Hey, dudes, that's really Venom," they just are like, "Yeah, whatever, Spider-Man, you're full of it." And they completely dismiss him. And it has been repeatedly told to us that the reason Peter is here is because he has the superior experience. Nobody knows more about being possessed by Venom than Peter does. And some of the team do have some periphery experience with this, but they completely, for no logical reason, dismiss his very valid concerns. And even if he was wrong, there being another person roaming around New York City with Spider-Man's powers, you would think that this would raise a little bit greater concern. You'd think that they would want to know, hey, what's going on here? And that Nick Fury would say, hey, why don't you guys go and find this guy and find out what his deal is? And there's no way that Peter's going to be able to try and do anything behind Fury's back if he's got these 4 other Jokers hanging around. And if they'd been there, they'd have been able to beat Harry probably with not that huge amount of problems, as he is not experienced in controlling or using the symbiote. So this is one of those instances where in the media, in the show or the book or whatever, where the characters, in order to advance the plot, have to be idiots, and I hate that. I completely and utterly hate that. Now, this isn't like one of those comic book stories where you basically say to yourself, okay, if Superman had used his ability to move almost as fast as the Flash, which is just a wee bit short of the speed of light, he could have easily solved this situation like that. Okay, you can't really do that in comics or any other story, because if that happens, then there's nothing that you could do that could possibly be any threat to Superman or those around him. He would just solve all problems almost instantly, and that's not an interesting story. But again, as I said, here the characters have to not take things that they know to be genuine dangers seriously. They have to be dismissive of people who raise perfectly valid concerns for no legitimate reason, and they have to totally take things that are, I don't even want to count the reasons why what we're looking at is dumb here. Okay, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. And I keep forgetting to mention this, but Doc Ock. Let's talk about him for a moment. If you haven't realized it, Dr. Octopus in this version is voiced by the one and only Tom Kenny, who folks know best as, of course, SpongeBob SquarePants. And he's also Zilius Zox, the crazy Red Lantern over on the Green Lantern TV show. It is really a testament to Kenny's acting ability that he can go and play such flat-out crazy guys as Zox and Dr. Octopus, and just in terms of hearing his voice, at least for me, not be able to put two and two together. So I have to give Kenny a lot of credit for his performance there. He's really doing a great job. And I like what the writers are doing with Dr. Octopus. He is becoming another player on the board, and not just as Norman Osborn's tool. He is manipulating things in the same way that Taskmaster did for his own benefit. So this means that not just Nick Fury, Norman Osborn, and Taskmaster are the smart guys who are out there doing things that are, in one way or another, manipulating Spider-Man. Now Dr. Octopus is on the list. Now granted, he's not exactly manipulating Spider-Man yet. He, like Taskmaster, is manipulating Norman Osborn. But we all know where this is heading. The other thing that stepping back now that I've had a moment to calm down on the why is everybody being stupid bandwagon, why does the entire city of New York immediately jump on the, hey, the guy in the black Spider-Man costume is awesome, he's a true hero? Even J. Jonah Jameson does this, and we are never given the slightest reason why. Okay, Black Suit Spider-Man beat up a couple of Dragon Man robots. Well, Spider-Man's beaten up far more impressive people than that, and the New York City public have seen him do it. So why this about face? Why, of all people, is J. Jonah Jameson backing this? And why does nobody assume that this is automatically someone different? Why doesn't someone say, hey, look, Spider-Man changed his clothes? They immediately just assume this is a completely different person roaming around in a Spider-Man costume and suddenly declare him the greatest thing since sliced bread. And again, there is no logical reason given for this. It drives me nuts. It absolutely does drive me nuts. Okay. But let's take a step back and talk about one of the good character moments. And that is when we see the parallels in when Peter and Harry are talking in the bathroom. When Peter quotes Uncle Ben by saying that with great power comes great responsibility, and we see the flashback with Harry and Norman, and Norman tells him that with great power comes great privilege. Uncle Ben has imparted the message to Peter that if you have power, you must put yourself, you must put the good of others before yourself. If you have this power, it is your obligation to do good, to better the world, to look after other people, to look after and help people who cannot look after and help themselves. While Norman imparts the message to Harry, if you have power, then this gives you the right to take what it is you want in this world. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the only possible, no matter how stupid it may be, no matter how much you may not have thought it through. This is the only possible explanation for why Harry would do something so incredibly stupid. He basically taking Norman's message to him and interpreting it as okay, because I'm a guy from the rich part of New York, of course I can control this bizarre alien creature that has just once before destroyed my home and quite possibly may have murdered my friends if the guy in the crazy pajamas hadn't showed up and put a stop to it. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep talking about Harry and talk about another rather dumb thing about this episode. Now, it is sort of established that electricity is one of the things that can really screw with the symbiote if it gets a significant jolt. Apparently, superpowered alien symbionts are fantastic insulators because they literally pumped enough juice into that thing to black out New York. And when it's all over, not only is Harry not barbecued, his clothes don't even seem singed. Now, folks, years ago, while I was unplugging a radio, I accidentally touched an exposed wire. And I got myself quite a good jolt. I honestly did think, for a moment there, that I might die. And I did have enough time to think, things like, wow, being electrocuted to death while unplugging a radio, what a stupid way to die. And let me tell you folks, getting a shock or even being electrocuted, it hurts. And Harry, once it's all over, he's just like, whoa, like he had smelled something bad or slipped on the ice. He just completely brushes it off. He's fine within seconds. And yeah, that really does bother me. Now that said, to take a step away from that and talk about something that was good in this episode again, I do have to give the show credit for doing some absolutely tremendous action scenes. The way that they were using the Venom symbiote was fantastic. It was some of the best use I have seen of the symbiote ever, and this is including the comics. And the fight between him and Spider-Man was dynamic. It was them swinging around New York, using their powers. It really was, frankly, what Spider-Man 3 really should have been. But, yeah, there's another big old pile of stupid I'd really rather not dwell on. Let's see. Oh yeah, I will have to admit to getting a cute little kick out of the little chibi Spider-Man appearing on Peter's shoulder going like, "I'm your crushing insecurity. You know you love me." Yeah. Okay, I'll admit that was a pretty fun joke. Looking at my notes. Oh, geez, how could I forget? One thing that I will admit is absolutely awesome was that shout out to the old Super Friends cartoon. That was wonderfully done. I was smiling quite a bit. And to see, of all people, Dupe turn up on this show. I would not have guessed that in a million years. If you're not familiar with Dupe, he is a character from, of all places, the X-Force comics. So yeah, looks like we might be seeing some folks from the mutant side of the Marvel Universe turn up in this show. I've heard rumors that Wolverine is going to turn up later on in this season. I don't know if it's true, but they did do one pretty funny story with Peter and Wolverine in the comics. So I wouldn't mind an adaptation of that, minus one small element that I'll talk about if and when that episode turns up. Anyway, overall, not a terribly great episode. Basically kind of a dumb episode. Anyway, until next time, take care, and as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.